still revolves around one man, Cristiano Ronaldo.
5 in red in the middle. Ronaldo! The farewell Navy approaching!
Don't take this for granted. We are watching a man defy time itself. Just amazing. No words. Oh yes, there it is. First and foremost, this guy doesn't beg for respect. He demands it with his feet. It must be exhausting to hate watch Ronaldo, because every single time the world counts him out, he comes back swinging and shuts these morons up. Is Ronaldo going to silence them all himself? He has to. People say he can't be the best ever, because he hasn't lifted the World Cup, that he's finished, that he's washed. But these last 2 tournaments have shown exactly how big his legacy really is. A lot of people joked that Ronaldo went to Saudi Arabia to collect a paycheck and fade away quietly. Instead, this brother was getting prepared for a World Cup in the USA at 41 years old. He wasn't at the level of previous World Cups, of previous iterations of himself. I think he might have just proved that wrong. How many times do we need a lesson that doubt him at your own peril? Everyone thinks just because he's playing in Riyadh, in a so-called weaker league, that he's done. I still think he's a monster, and over these next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly why. Portugal walked into the 2026 World Cup as one of the favorites, and their opener against DR Congo was supposed to be routine. João Neves gave them an early lead. Portugal completed 84 passes to their opponents' 12 in the first 6 minutes, and it looked like a procession. Then everything fell apart. Congo equalized from a corner through João, and Portugal mustered just 6 shots for the rest of the match. It finished 1-1. It was the 4th time in 5 World Cups that Portugal failed to win their opener, and the cameras found one man, Ronaldo. He had 2 clear chances, and he missed the target with both. 25 touches in the entire game, no shot on target. The internet did what the internet does.
So look at it, let's break it down.
One thing that's important, people please at home, the team needs to score, not you need to score. And I will explain now and go more into details of what Zlatan just explained here. So obviously we're going to see here, Portugal being on the ball, Conceicao is going to receive the ball. Cristiano Ronaldo has been in that situation multiple times. If you make that run here, you make the defender take a decision to crash the 6-yard box. But because he wants to score, he goes into the path of Bruno Fernandes. If he goes into that 6-yard box, you've been in that situation, Alexis, you would have had to follow him.
Thierry Henry led the criticism, pointing to how selfish and anonymous he looked up front. Pundits called for Roberto Martinez to drop his own captain. The comparisons were brutal, because a day earlier, Messi had torn the tournament apart, and Mbappe, Haaland, and Kane had all made lightning starts. Ronaldo looked like a relic standing next to them. And then something happened that turned a bad night into a full-blown civil war. The young players started talking. João Neves, the 21-year-old who actually scored Portugal's goal, sat in front of the cameras and said the quiet part out loud. He acknowledged everything Ronaldo has done for the national team and for football. But then he added that right now, in this moment, Cristiano is no different from anyone else. Just another player here to help the group, here to contribute, exactly like the rest of them. Honest words, maybe too honest. Because the moment that clip hit the internet, it exploded. Ronaldo's army of fans read, "He is no different from the others," and lost their minds. They flooded Neves' comments. They came for his Instagram. They accused a 21-year-old of disrespecting a legend after the kid had just scored the only goal of the match. The story stopped being about a 1-1 draw and became about whether Ronaldo's own teammates even respected him anymore. Then, Francisco Conceição stepped to the microphone.
Não, eu acho que Cristiano, com sua qualidade de fazer golos, acho que não há ninguém como ele nesse capítulo, e nós não temos essa obrigação, essa necessidade de lhe passar a bola. Eu, por exemplo, falo por mim, eu passo a bola para quem acho que naquele momento está melhor desmarcado. Não é que tenha tempo para pensar quem é que está, qual é a cara do colega que está ao meu lado, não. Acho que fazemos tudo por instinto, fazemos tudo, são milésimos de segundo, não há tempo para isso. E claro que o Cristiano está aqui para ajudar como qualquer outro jogador da seleção.
And instead of cooling the fire, he poured petrol on it, at least in the eyes of the fans. Read cold on a phone screen. It sounded like a man saying he doesn't care about feeding the captain. The toxic cycle started all over again. But here's the thing. the angry clips left out. Conceição wasn't burying Ronaldo. He was glorifying him. In the very same breath, he said that when it comes to scoring goals, there is nobody on this planet like Cristiano. He called him an example because of his hunger, the way a 41-year-old still if a man who has already conquered everything still shows up starving, then the new generation has no excuse not to be even hungrier. That's not disrespect. That's worship dressed up as tactics. Close ranks. Ruben Dias, exhausted by the noise, told reporters flatly that he doesn't care, doesn't think about it, and nobody in the team does. Martinez defended Neves, saying the kid never meant any insult, that he was clumsily trying to say Portugal's goal is bigger than any individual, before adding that this does nothing to shrink Ronaldo's stature, that Cristiano isn't an ordinary player, he's a symbol of Portugal and of football itself. And Ronaldo? He didn't fire back at his teammates. He posted a photo of the squad training together with 3 words, always standing together. That's the part nobody wants to give him credit for. The easiest thing in the world would have been to play the victim and let his fan base wage war on a 21-year-old. Instead, the captain tried to put the lid back on the pot, shield the kids who'd spoken out of turn, and remind everyone they were one team. Because real leadership isn't about demanding the ball. It's about standing in front of the storm so the people behind you can breathe. And then, when the talking was finally done, he answered all of it the only way he ever has. Then came the Uzbekistan game. Must win. The whole footballing world braced itself, half of them hoping he'd fail so they could finally write the obituary. Ronaldo walked out for the warm-up in Houston to a rapturous roar from nearly 69,000 people, the stadium erupting every time his face hit the big screen. 6 minutes in, João Cancelo surges down the right and pulls back a low cross, and Ronaldo finishes it at the near post. Drought over. Out came the trademark Siu, the leap, the spin, the throaty roar. Then, in the 39th minute, Bruno Fernandes threads a perfect through ball. Ronaldo races onto it and slots it calmly into the far corner. A brace. Portugal demolished Uzbekistan 5-0. After the final whistle, an emotional Ronaldo shouted 2 words straight into the television cameras. "I'm back." That was the whole story. 2 words, fired directly at every single person who buried him 72 hours earlier. Because this is what he has done his entire career. He silences the doubters. Some people talk on Instagram. Ronaldo does his talking on the pitch. And he didn't sit back and admire the 2 goals. He stayed in the thick of everything, dragging defenders around, forcing the own goal that made it 4, nearly grabbing a 3rd before the keeper crashed into him. The same man who looked a step slow against Congo suddenly looked 10 years younger. When a reporter in the mixed zone tried to bait him with a question about Messi's records, he didn't even flinch. He just walked past it. The work had done the talking, and the same teammates who'd been dragged through the mud all week were now celebrating with the captain, who refused to throw them under the bus. That brace wasn't just a comeback, it rewrote the record books. With those 2 goals, Cristiano Ronaldo became the first footballer in history to score at 6 different World Cups, 2006 through 2026, 20 years of scoring on the biggest stage on earth. He even trumped Messi to that milestone, scoring his 6th tournament goal a day after his rival did. His World Cup tally climbed to 10, passing the legendary Eusebio's 9 and making him Portugal's all-time leading World Cup scorer. The 2 goals were the 144th and 145th of his international career, the most in men's football history, a record he holds by 23 over Messi. The Uzbekistan match was his 230th cap, also the most in the men's game. And at 41 years and 138 days, he became the 2nd oldest scorer in World Cup history, behind only Roger Milla. He told reporters records are always nice, but the most important thing was the team. Classic Ronaldo. The records chase him while he pretends he isn't counting. When people talk about Ronaldo's greatness, they jump straight to the goals, the leaps, the free kicks. But the real story isn't just the talent, it's the impact he's had everywhere he's gone. Sporting, Manchester United, Real Madrid, Juventus, Al Nassr, Portugal. It doesn't matter where you put him. He scores, he breaks records, and he drags the standard of everyone around him upward. Old Trafford is where the boy from Madeira became a man, winning 3 Premier Leagues and his first Champions League in 2008. Then came Real Madrid, where he reached a different planet entirely. 450 goals in 438 games, a number that alone should not be possible. 4 Champions Leagues in 5 years, including the back-to-back-to-back no club had managed in the modern era. He didn't just win in Madrid, he turned the Champions League into his personal kingdom, scoring in final after final, knockout tie after knockout tie. People try to downplay it because the goals came at giant clubs. That's a moronic point. Every season the cast changed, the managers changed, the tactics changed, and he just kept scoring, adapting from a flying winger to a penalty box predator as his body aged. Then Juventus, where he delivered the Serie A titles he was brought in for. Then Al Nassr, where instead of retiring into the sunset, he kept banging in goals at an absurd rate and dragged global eyeballs to a league nobody outside the region used to watch. Same playbook, same relentless engine, just a different stadium. For all of it, the international story is where the knife twisted hardest. For years, the line was that Ronaldo couldn't win with Portugal, that he wasn't a leader, that he choked when it mattered. Euro 2016 was the first answer. He limped off injured in the final against France, in tears, and instead of collapsing, he became a screaming, pacing second coach on the touchline, dragging his country to the trophy by sheer force of will. Then the Nations League in 2019, and again last summer, where he scored in both the semi-final and the final. People said he couldn't lead by example. He's been leading by example for 2 decades. Leadership isn't about noise, even when Ronaldo happens to make plenty of it. And it isn't about whether your teammates feel obligated to pass you the ball. But the World Cup, the Holy Grail, has always escaped him. The 2018 hat trick against Spain was one of the greatest individual World Cup performances anyone has ever seen, yet the trophy never came. And that's exactly why 2026 carries so much weight. A revolver called the World Cup is pointed at his legacy, and the world is waiting to see if it fires. If Portugal falls short, people will point the finger mainly at him. There's a feeling, not just in Portugal, but everywhere, that geniuses should somehow suffer for their greatness. Let's be honest about what we just witnessed. A 41-year-old man, written off by the entire planet after one bad game, watched his own teammates publicly call him no different from the others, watched his fan base declare war on a 21-year-old, refused to add a single drop to the fire, posted always standing together, and then walked back out 3 days later and scored twice to make World Cup history. He silenced Henry, silenced the pundits, silenced the drop him crowd, and shouted, "I'm back," into the cameras while doing it. That alone would fix most careers. For Ronaldo, it was just a Tuesday. So when people ask how a 41-year-old is still doing this, still topping scoring charts, still breaking records that have stood for decades, still holding a fractured dressing room together, while a nation screams at him, the honest answer is that it shouldn't be possible. By every law of football and biology, this chapter should have ended years ago. And yet, here he is, swiveling in the 6-yard box, roaring at the sky, doing the one thing he's done better than almost anyone who ever lived, proving the doubters wrong. To see how many people have become Ronaldo's victim over the years, as he's broken every record there is to break, you have to keep watching, because the story clearly isn't finished yet.